The ultimatum. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with nervous energy. Representatives from 1,000 worlds shifted uneasily in their seats, a cacophony of whispers, clicks, and low hums filling the air. At the center of it all stood High Chancellor Vexlor, his tentacles writhing with barely contained fury as he addressed the assembled delegates. The Terran system has been given ample time to consider our generous offer. Vexlor's voice boomed, amplified by the chamber's acoustics. Their continued resistance is an affront to the Empire and a threat to galactic stability. We demand their immediate surrender or face annihilation. In the human section, Ambassador Zara Chen clenched her fists, her nails digging into her palms. She'd known this moment was coming, but the reality of it still sent a chill down her spine. One by one, representatives from other worlds stood to pledge their loyalty to the Empire. Some did so eagerly, others with clear reluctance, but none dared to openly defy Vexlor's ultimatum. Finally, it was Earth's turn. Zara rose to her feet, her heart pounding but her voice steady. The people of Earth have carefully considered the Empire's demand, she began, feeling the weight of countless alien eyes upon her. We respectfully decline. A collective gasp rippled through the chamber. Vexlor's eye stalks swiveled towards her, narrowing dangerously. You dare, he hissed. Zara stood her ground. We dare to choose freedom over tyranny. We dare to stand for the right of all sentient beings to determine their own destiny. Earth will not bow. Chaos erupted in the chamber. Some delegates shouted in outrage, others in grudging admiration. Through it all, Zara noticed one particular alien watching her intently. Crix, the Andromedan representative, regarded her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Was it curiosity, respect, or something else entirely? As the session adjourned in disarray, Zara made her way towards the exit, her security detail closing ranks around her. She barely stepped into the hallway when a chittering voice called out to her. Ambassador Chen. A moment, please. Zara turned to see Crix approaching, their iridescent exoskeleton shimmering under the hall's lights. She nodded to her guards, who stepped back warily. Representative Crix, Zara acknowledged. What can I do for you? Crix's antennae twitched nervously. Your speech. It was most unexpected. Surely you understand the consequences of defying the Empire. Zara's eyes hardened. We understand all too well. But humanity has faced impossible odds before. We will not surrender our freedom without a fight. Fascinating, Crix murmured. I may have information that could be of use to you, but not here. It's not safe. Intrigued despite her caution, Zara nodded. My office, 1 standard hour. We can speak privately there. As Crix scuttled away, Zora's communicator buzzed. It was a priority message from Earth Command. She ducked into an alcove to read it, her eyes widening as she absorbed the contents. Project Thunderbolt is go. Phase 1 initiated. All diplomatic personnel recalled effective immediately. Godspeed, Ambassador. Zara took a deep breath, squaring her shoulders. So it began. Earth was mobilizing for war, and she was now on the front lines of a conflict that would determine the fate of her species, and perhaps the entire galaxy. She made her way back to the Earth Embassy, mind racing. What information did Crix possess? Could they be trusted? And how long before the Empire's fleets arrived in the Sol system? In her office, Zara secured the room against eavesdropping and opened an encrypted channel to Earth Command. General Rivera's hologram flickered to life, her expression grim. Ambassador, I hope you're somewhere secure. The situation has escalated faster than we anticipated. Imperial scout ships have been detected at the edge of our system. Zara's blood ran cold. Already? But surely they wouldn't attack without a formal declaration. This is the declaration, Zara. You've done your job admirably, but now it's time to come home. We need you here to coordinate with potential allies. Zara hesitated. Sir, I may have a lead on some valuable intelligence. An Andromedan representative approached me after the session. They're due here any minute. Rivera's hologram flickered as she considered this. All right, hear them out. But be on the first transport back to Earth after that. And Zara, watch your back. We don't know who we can trust out there. As the hologram winked out, a soft chime announced a visitor. Zara straightened her uniform and took a steadying breath. Enter, she called. Crick stepped into the office, antennae swiveling nervously. Ambassador, thank you for seeing me. What I'm about to tell you, it could be considered treason against the Empire. Zara leaned forward, her full attention on the alien before her. I'm listening, she said softly. As Crix began to speak, outlining secret Imperial battle plans and potential weaknesses, Zara felt a glimmer of hope. Perhaps humanity's stand against tyranny wasn't so lonely after all. The road ahead would be fraught with danger, but Earth had taken its first steps towards a future free from Imperial control. The die was cast. The fate of galaxies hung in the balance, and at the center of it all stood humanity, defiant, determined, and ready to fight for their place among the stars. Preparing for battle. The streets of New Geneva bustled with frenetic energy as Zara Chen made her way towards the United Earth Defense Command headquarters. In the weeks since her return from the Galactic Council, the planet had transformed. Gone was the carefree atmosphere of a world at peace. In its place, a steely determination had taken hold. Holographic displays flickered on every corner, showcasing the latest developments in Earth's preparations. Citizens queued up at recruitment centers, eager to do their part. Factories that once produced luxury goods now churned out components for the fledgling space fleet. Zara nodded to the guards as she entered the UEDC complex. The briefing room was already packed when she arrived, filled with military brass and civilian leaders from around the globe. At the center of it all stood General Rivera, her face etched with lines of worry, but her eyes blazing with determination. Ambassador Chen, Rivera acknowledged as Zara took her seat. I trust your latest round of negotiations was productive. Zara grimaced. As productive as can be expected, given the circumstances. The Proxians have agreed to provide us with some of their shielding technology in exchange for our advancements in AI. The Centauri Confederation remains neutral, but they've hinted they might be persuaded to join us if we can prove we're not on a suicide mission. Rivera nodded, turning to address the room at large. Every alley counts, people. We're not just fighting for Earth anymore. We're fighting for every species that's ever chafed under Imperial rule. The holographic display at the center of the room flickered to life, showing a real-time map of the solar system. Red dots representing Imperial scout ships swarmed at the edges. The enemy is probing our defenses, a gruff admiral explained. So far, our stealth satellites have kept them from getting an accurate picture of our capabilities. But it's only a matter of time before they commit to a full-scale invasion. Then we need to be ready, Rivera declared. Dr. Patel, what's the status on Project Thunderbolt? A tired-looking woman in a lab coat stepped forward. We've managed to integrate the Proxian shielding with our own energy weapons. The results are promising. In simulations, we're seeing a 300% increase in offensive capability, with only a 15% drain on our power systems. A murmur of excitement rippled through the room. Zara leaned forward, intrigued. And how does this compare to known Imperial tech? Patel's eyes gleamed. If our intelligence is accurate, we might just have the edge we need to bloody their nose. As the briefing continued, Zara's communicator buzzed softly. She glanced down to see a message from an unexpected source. Crix. Urgent news. Imperial fleet mobilizing faster than anticipated. Need to meet. Same protocols as before. Zara's heart raced. Since that first meeting in her office on Centauri Prime, Crix had become an invaluable source of intelligence, but every contact was a risk, for both of them. She caught Rivera's eye as the meeting adjourned, nodding towards the door. The general followed her into a secure antechamber. We may have a problem, Zara began, showing Rivera the message. Rivera's expression darkened. Can your source be trusted? They haven't steered us wrong yet. Zara replied. "And frankly, we can't afford to ignore this." After a moment's consideration, Rivera nodded. "All right, make the meat, but for God's sake, be careful. If the Imperials get wind of a leak in their ranks—" Zara didn't need her to finish the thought. The consequences would be dire, for Crix, for Earth, for the entire resistance movement that was slowly, painfully being born. Hours later, in a nondescript safe house on the outskirts of New Geneva, Zara waited tensely. The room was sparse. A table, 2 chairs, and enough surveillance equipment to make any spy envious. A soft chime announced an incoming transmission. After verifying the encryption protocols, Zara accepted the call. Crix's hologram flickered into view, their antennae twitching agitatedly. "Ambassador Chen, thank you for agreeing to this meeting. You said it was urgent," Zara replied, leaning forward. "What's happening, Crix?" The Andromedan's exoskeleton seemed to ripple with tension. "The Imperial High Command has grown impatient. They're accelerating their invasion plans. The main fleet will enter your system within the week." Zara's blood ran cold. "A week? But our intelligence suggested we had at least a month to." "Plans change," Crix interrupted. "The Empire fears that every moment they delay gives other species time to reconsider their allegiances. They want to make an example of Earth, quickly and decisively." Zara's mind raced. A week. It wasn't nearly enough time to fully implement Project Thunderbolt, let alone shore up their defensive lines. "Is there any way to slow them down?" she asked, grasping at straws. Crix hesitated. "There might be, but it would require direct action. Sabotage." "You're talking about attacking Imperial assets," Zara said slowly. "That's a huge risk, Crix. For you, for any operatives we might have in place." "I'm aware," Crix replied, their voice heavy with emotion Zara couldn't quite decipher. "But Ambassador, Zara, you need to understand. What your people are doing, this stand against tyranny, it's inspiring others. There are those within the Empire, even within the military, who question the wisdom of this war, who admire humanity's courage." Zara leaned back, stunned. "Are you saying?" "I'm saying that if you can hold out, if you can score even a few victories against the Imperial fleet, it could change everything. The balance of power, the very structure of galactic society. It's all in flux. But you need time. Time. The one resource they were painfully short on." Zara made a decision. "All right. Give me details on potential targets. I'll take it to our military command. But Crix, be careful. If you're discovered." The Andromedan's hologram seemed to straighten, mandibles clicking with determination. "Some things are worth the risk, Ambassador. For too long, the Empire has ruled through fear. Perhaps it's time they learned to fear those they would oppress." As the transmission ended, Zara sat in silence for a long moment. The weight of what was to come pressed down on her. A week to prepare for the fight of their lives. A week to rally allies, to shore up defenses, to prepare for a war that would determine the fate of not just humanity, but countless species across the galaxy. She stood, squaring her shoulders. There was work to be done. Humanity had chosen to stand against the tide of tyranny. Now they would show the galaxy exactly what they were made of. In labs and factories across the globe, scientists and engineers worked around the clock, refining weapons and defenses that merged human ingenuity with alien technology. In orbital shipyards, the first of Earth's true warships took shape, their hulls gleaming with promise and menace in equal measure. And in the great cities of Earth, in the farmlands and mountains and deserts, humanity prepared. They trained, they planned, they hoped. For they knew that the coming storm would test them as never before. The Empire was coming, but Earth would be ready. Ready to fight, ready to die if necessary, but above all, ready to show the galaxy that freedom was worth any price. The final countdown had begun. First contact, first blood. The tension in Earth's defense command was palpable as the countdown ticked away. Holographic displays showed the encroaching Imperial fleet, a vast armada of warships that dwarfed anything humanity had ever constructed. Yet there was no panic, only grim determination. General Rivera stood at the center of the command hub, her eyes fixed on the main tactical display. "Status report," she barked. "Imperial Vanguard has entered the Kuiper Belt, sir," a young lieutenant responded. "Estimate 30 minutes until they're in range of our outer defense grid." Rivera nodded, turning to where Zara Chen stood, communicator in hand. "Ambassador, any word from our friends?" Zara shook her head. "Nothing since Crix's last transmission. We have to assume the operation either failed or—" She was cut off by a sudden flurry of activity. Alarms blared as new data flooded the tactical displays. Multiple explosions detected in the Imperial fleet. The lieutenant shouted, his voice a mix of disbelief and excitement. "Sir, we're seeing at least a dozen capital ships disabled or destroyed." A cheer went up around the command center, quickly silenced by Rivera's raised hand. "It seems our Andromedan friend came through," she said quietly to Zara. "Now it's our turn. All units, battle stations, initiate Operation Thunderbolt." Across the solar system, humanity's defenders sprang into action. Stealth platforms that had lain dormant in the shadow of distant moons powered up, their experimental weapons primed. In the asteroid belt, mining ships retrofitted with military-grade shields and weapons moved into predetermined ambush positions. And from Earth itself, the first wave of the planet's own warships launched. They were few in number compared to the Imperial Armada, but each vessel bristled with a combination of human ingenuity and reverse-engineered alien tech that made them far deadlier than their size suggested. Zara watched the unfolding battle with a mixture of awe and terror. The Imperial fleet, reeling from the unexpected sabotage, struggled to regroup. Earth's forces seized the initiative, striking hard at the disorganized vanguard. "Stealth platform, Alpha engaging," came a calm voice over the comms. On the tactical display, Zara saw a cluster of Imperial frigates suddenly erupt in flame as the platform's energy weapon sliced through their shields like they weren't even there. But the Empire didn't rule a galaxy by being easily defeated. As the initial shock wore off, their superior numbers began to tell. Imperial battleships pushed forward, their massive guns filling space with deadly energy bolts. "We've lost stealth platform Charlie," the lieutenant reported grimly. "Beta is falling back to secondary positions." Rivera's face was a mask of concentration. "Hold the line," she ordered. "We just need to bloody their nose, make them think twice about the cost of this invasion." For hours, the battle raged across the solar system. Earth's forces fought with desperate courage, using hit-and-run tactics to strike at Imperial weak points before falling back. The asteroid belt became a deadly maze, with human ships using the rocky terrain to ambush larger Imperial vessels. But despite their valiant efforts, the Imperial advance continued. Slower than planned, bloodier than expected, but inexorable. "They've broken through our outer perimeter," Rivera announced, her voice tight. "All remaining forces fall back to Mars Defense Line Alpha. We make our stand there." As the battered Earth fleet retreated to regroup around the red planet, Zora's communicator buzzed. She glanced down, her eyes widening at the sender's ID. "General, I need to take this," she said urgently. Rivera nodded, her attention still fixed on the battle. Zara ducked into a side room, activating the secure channel. "Crix, is that you? Are you all right?" The Andromedan's hologram flickered into view, their exoskeleton scorched and cracked in places. "I'm alive, Ambassador. But I don't have much time. The Imperial High Command is in chaos. The losses they've sustained, it's unprecedented. But they're still advancing," Zara said, unable to keep the despair from her voice. "Yes, but at a cost they never anticipated. Listen carefully. I've managed to access their primary battle network. I'm transmitting targeting data for their flagship, the Immortal Reign. If you can take it out, it could shatter their entire command structure." Zara's heart raced. Crix, this information, it's invaluable. But the risk you're taking is necessary, Crix interrupted. Your people have shown the galaxy that the Empire isn't invincible. Others are watching, Ambassador, waiting. If Earth can hold out just a little longer. The transmission suddenly cut out, leaving Zara staring at empty air. She took a deep breath, squaring her shoulders before rushing back to the command center. General, she called out, I have critical intelligence. The location and vulnerabilities of the Imperial flagship. Rivera's eyes gleamed. Now that's what I call good timing. Lieutenant, get me a secure line to the Defiant. Looks like Captain Chen is about to earn her pay. Across the solar system, the battered remnants of Earth's fleet regrouped around Mars. At their head, the EDS Defiant powered up its experimental weapons, its crew grimly determined. In the Defiant's command chair, Captain Mai Chen, Zara's younger sister, received the transmission from Earth Command. A slow smile spread across her face as she digested the information. Helm, plot a course for these coordinates, she ordered. Weapons, charge the Thunderbolt cannon. All hands, prepare for combat. We're taking the fight to them. As the Defiant and its escort ships accelerated towards their target, May allowed herself a moment of reflection. The fate of Earth, perhaps of the entire galaxy, rested on what happened in the next few hours. But she felt no fear, only a sense of purpose. The Empire had come expecting an easy conquest. Instead, they had found a species willing to fight to their last breath for freedom. And now, humanity would show them the true cost of their arrogance. All ships, this is Captain Chen. My broadcast to the fleet. The enemy thinks they have us on the run. They think this battle is over. Let's show them how wrong they are. For Earth, for freedom. Attack. With that, the human ships surged forward, weapons blazing. The final battle for the fate of Earth had begun. The turning tide. The void of space erupted in a dazzling display of light and fury as Earth's remaining fleet engaged the Imperial Armada. At the forefront, the EDS Defiant led the charge, its experimental Thunderbolt cannon leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. On the bridge of the Defiant, Captain Mai Chen gripped her command chair, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. Status report, she barked. Thunderbolt cannon at 80% charge, Captain, her weapons officer responded. Imperial forces are scrambling to regroup. They didn't expect us to counterattack. Mai allowed herself a grim smile. Let's press our advantage. All ships, concentrate fire on these coordinates. Punch us a hole straight to their flagship. As the battle raged, word of Earth's desperate stand spread across the galaxy. On countless worlds, beings of all species gathered around communication devices, watching in awe as a single planet dared to challenge the might of the Empire. In the Andromeda Nebula, a group of resistance fighters cheered as they watched footage of Imperial ships falling to Earth's advanced weaponry. See, their leader exclaimed, it can be done. The Empire isn't invincible. On Centauri Prime, the Galactic Council convened in an emergency session. The chamber was filled with heated debate as representatives argued over whether to maintain their neutrality or join the fight against the Empire. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Zara Chen paced nervously in the command center. The holographic display showed the Defiant's progress towards the Imperial flagship, but the cost was high. With each passing moment, more human ships winked out of existence, overwhelmed by the Empire's superior numbers. We're losing too many, General Rivera muttered, her face etched with concern. At this rate, we won't have a fleet left even if we win this battle. Zara was about to respond when her communicator buzzed urgently. She stepped aside to answer it, her eyes widening as she recognized the caller. Crix, what's happening? The Andromedan's hologram flickered into view, their exoskeleton even more battered than before. Ambassador, listen carefully. The Imperial High Command is in disarray. Your sister's attack has them panicking, but they're preparing to deploy their superweapon, the Planet Killer. Zara's blood ran cold. Planet killer. Crix, what are you talking about? It's a massive energy cannon capable of destabilizing a planet's core. Crix explained hurriedly. They're moving it into position now. If it fires on Earth, we'll be annihilated. Zara finished, her mind racing. Crix, we need the specifications of that weapon. Any weaknesses, anything we can exploit. I'm transmitting what I have now, Crix replied. But Ambassador, I've been discovered. This will likely be our last communication. It's been an honor to. The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving Zara staring at empty air. She took a deep breath, pushing down her emotions. There would be time to mourn later, if they survived. She rushed back to General Rivera, quickly explaining the situation. The general's face paled as she absorbed the information. Lieutenant, she called out, get me a direct line to the Defiant. Now. Across the solar system, aboard the Defiant, Mei Chen received the urgent transmission. Her jaw clenched as she listened to her sister's warning about the planet killer. Understood, she said grimly. We'll redirect our attack. But Zara, we're taking heavy losses. I don't know if we can reach it in time. You have to, Mei. Zara's voice crackled over the comms. The fate of Earth depends on it. The fate of the entire galaxy. As Mei ended the transmission, she turned to her crew. Their faces were a mix of exhaustion and determination. You heard the situation, she announced. We have a new target. The Empire thinks they can intimidate us with this planet killer. Let's show them what happens when you threaten our home. The Defiant and its remaining escort ships altered course, pushing their engines to the limit. Imperial forces, sensing the change in tactics, moved to intercept. Multiple enemy cruisers on intercept course. Mei's tactical officer reported. They're trying to box us in. Mei's mind raced, considering their options. Then an idea struck her. Helm, plot a course through the densest part of the debris field, she ordered. Weapons, prepare to overload our shield generators on my mark. Her crew looked at her in confusion, but quickly moved to obey. The Defiant plunged into a chaotic maze of destroyed ships and scattered asteroids, its pursuers close behind. Now, Mei shouted, overload shields and reverse thrust. The Defiant's shields exploded outward in a massive electromagnetic pulse, just as the ship came to an abrupt stop. The Imperial ships, unable to react in time, flew past them, directly into the path of their own comrades' fire. As explosions blossomed around them, Mei allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. Resume course to target, she ordered. Full speed ahead. Back on Earth, Zara watched the unfolding battle with a mixture of pride and terror. The Defiant's bold maneuver had bought them precious time, but the planet killer loomed ever closer to firing position. General, one of the technicians called out. We're detecting massive energy buildup from the enemy superweapon. Estimate 2 minutes to firing capacity. Rivera's face was grim. Patch me through to all channels, she ordered. As the communications officer nodded, she took a deep breath. To all Earth forces and to any allied ships who can hear this transmission. This is General Rivera of Earth Defense Command. The enemy is about to deploy a weapon capable of destroying our entire planet. We cannot allow this to happen. All ships, concentrate your fire on the following coordinates. Let's show these bastards what happens when you back humanity into a corner. Across the solar system, the remaining Earth ships acknowledged the order. But they weren't alone. To everyone's shock, a group of Andromedan cruisers decloaked near the planet killer, their weapons already firing. This is Commander Zix of the Andromedan Resistance. A new voice crackled over the comms. We stand with Earth. Death to the Empire. More ships appeared. Proxian, Centaurian, even a handful of Imperial deserters. The tide of battle had shifted. Aboard the Defiant, Mei Chen felt a surge of hope. This is it, she told her crew. Give it everything we've got. For Earth. The Defiant's Thunderbolt cannon glowed with energy as it prepared to fire. Around it, a ragtag fleet of allies joined the attack. As one, They surged towards the planet killer, determined to save Earth or die trying. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance, and at the center of it all, humanity fought on, their indomitable spirit shining like a beacon in the darkness of space, a new dawn for the galaxy. The space around Earth blazed with the light of 1,000 suns as the combined fleet of Earth and its newfound allies clashed with the Imperial Armada. At the heart of the battle, the EVS Defiant led the charge against the planet killer, its thunderbolt cannon glowing with barely contained energy. On the Defiance bridge, Captain Mai Chen's voice rang out clear and determined. All power to forward shields. Divert all non-essential systems to the main weapon. We've got one shot at this. Let's make it count. The massive Imperial superweapon loomed before them, its own weapon ports glowing with ominous energy. Enemy weapon at 95% charge. May's tactical officer shouted, 30 seconds to firing capacity. Mee gritted her teeth. Thunderbolt status. Fully charged, Captain, but we need to get closer. Our current range is at the outer limits of effective fire. Then let's get closer, May growled. Helm, full speed ahead. All ships, concentrate fire on the planet killer's outer defenses. Clear us a path. The Ragdig fleet surged forward as one. Andromedan cruisers unleashed salvos of plasma torpedoes, while Proxian fighters darted between larger vessels, their agility allowing them to slip past Imperial defenses. Earth ships, though battered and fewer in number, fought with a ferocity that gave even hardened Imperial commanders pause. Back on Earth, in the heart of Defense Command, Zara Chen and General Rivera watched the unfolding battle with bated breath. The holographic display showed the Defiant's desperate charge, Imperial ships closing in from all sides. Come on, May, Zara whispered, her fists clenched. You can do this. Suddenly, a new alert blared through the command center. Energy spike detected. A technician shouted, the planet killer is firing. Rivera's face paled. May, if you're going to do something, do it now. Aboard the Defiant, alarm screamed as the planet killer's massive weapon ports blazed to life. Now or never, people, May shouted. Fire the thunderbolt. Time seemed to slow as the Defiant's main cannon released its pent-up energy. A lance of pure, blinding light erupted from the ship, streaking across space towards the planet killer. At the same moment, the Imperial superweapon fired, its own destructive beam aimed directly at Earth. The two energy beams met in space, creating a cataclysmic explosion that momentarily outshone the sun itself. For a heartbeat, everyone, human, alien, Imperial, held their breath. When the light faded, a collective gasp echoed across communication channels. The planet killer listed in space, a massive hole torn through its main weapon array. The Defiant, though battered and sparking with damage, remained intact. Mee's voice, tired but triumphant, crackled over the comms. Target neutralized. I repeat, planet killer is down. A cheer erupted in Earth's command center, quickly echoed across the planet and beyond. But the battle wasn't over yet. The Imperial fleet, though reeling from the loss of their superweapon, still outnumbered the Earth Alliance. It was at this moment that the tide truly turned. Across the galaxy, inspired by Earth's defiance and the destruction of the seemingly invincible planet killer, other species rose up. The Galactic Council, long cowed by Imperial might, finally found its courage. This is High Counselor Zix of the Andromedan Confederation. A new voice boomed across all channels. To all free peoples of the galaxy, the time to stand is now. The Imperial fleet is in disarray. Push them back. For too long, we have lived under the shadow of tyranny. No more. New ships poured into the Sol system. Centaurian dreadnoughts, Proxian carrier groups, even several Imperial vessels flying rebel colors. The battle that had begun as Earth's last stand had become a galactic revolution. Hours later, as the last Imperial ships fled the system, the full impact of what had transpired began to sink in. Earth had not only survived, but had sparked a fire that spread across the stars. In the aftermath, as the galaxy began to reshape itself, Earth found itself at the center of a new alliance. The United Galactic Federation was born, with Earth as a founding member, no longer an isolated world, but a beacon of hope and freedom for all species. Months later, in the newly constructed Federation Hall in Geneva, Zara Chen stood before representatives from 100 worlds. Her voice, amplified by translators, rang out clear and strong. Today, we stand at the dawn of a new era, an era of cooperation, of mutual respect between all sentient beings. The Empire sought to divide us, to rule through fear, but they underestimated the power of unity, of hope, of the indomitable spirit that resides in all who yearn for freedom. She paused, her gaze sweeping the assembled delegates. Earth's stand was just the beginning. Each of you, every world represented here, played a part in overthrowing tyranny. Now we must work together to build something better. A galaxy where no species need fear oppression, where the rights of all are protected. As Zara spoke, on screens across Earth and 1,000 other worlds, people of all species watched and listened. In orbit, the Defiant, now the flagship of the new Federation fleet, stood as a symbol of what could be accomplished when different races stood together. And somewhere in the vast expanse of space, aboard a small, nondescript ship, Crix watched the proceedings with a mixture of pride and hope. The Andromedan had barely escaped the Empire's wrath, but the sight before them made all the risks worthwhile. A new age had dawned, one of unity and possibility. As the delegates rose in a standing ovation, Zora's final words echoed across the stars. Together, we have proven that even the mightiest empire can fall when faced with the combined will of free peoples. Let us move forward not in fear, but in hope. For the future is ours to shape, and together there is nothing we cannot achieve. The chamber erupted in cheers, a cacophony of voices from 100 different species, all united in a single purpose. Earth's defiance had not just saved a single planet. It had liberated a galaxy and ushered in a new era of cooperation and exploration. As the celebration continued, Zara found a quiet moment to look out at the stars. Somewhere out there, new challenges awaited. But for now, for this moment, she allowed herself to feel the full weight of what they had accomplished. Humanity had not only survived, they had changed the very fabric of galactic society. The future, vast and unknown, beckoned. And thanks to the courage and determination of Earth and its allies, it was a future filled with hope.